Can IQ be increased? Before we move any further, let's address this term called as neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity or the brain's plasticity is the ability of neural connections inside the brain to change through growth and reorganization. But the ideas in favor are not any of my vague ideas, but are the research-based ideas taken from the 7th chapter of the book called as Make It Stick. Namaste everyone, this is Abhinandan Patidar, second year medical student at MJ Medical College Indore, and in this video we are going to discuss the various methods which we can use to improve our IQ or our brain's abilities. So let us understand this with Raju's story. So Venkat and Raju are two students from primary classes. Now Venkat scored very well in the exams, whereas Raju failed. And this thing convinced that Venkat was intelligent and Raju was dull. Now this thing continues. Venkat is so-called the intelligent one and Raju the dull one. But was this true? To me, the problem was more of mindset and less of intelligence. But now that it has been put into the minds of both Venkat and Raju, it will continue the same way. And same is the case with most of us. We are made to believe that our abilities or our IQ or our brain's capabilities are fixed from birth, which is far from truth. Definitely they can be improved. Now the question arises how they can be improved. So there are three methods, and they are developing a growth mindset, repeated exercise or deliberate exercise, and memory cues. So let us start with the first one, developing a growth mindset. So I used to get decent scores in my school examination, maybe because I was good at studies. But if we closely observe what being good at study means, it's basically remembering the things or memorizing the things. And in my mind, it was like, yes, I can remember this particular stuff or I can learn that particular stuff. At the same time, many of my friends thought that they were not good at studies. But was this true? Definitely not. It was not their inability to learn something, but it was merely a mindset mistake. Now, how can I say that? Because when recalling the scenes from movies that we watched or remembering the routes of the places we just visited were concerned, both of us were almost same. So memorizing or learning was definitely not the problem. The problem was of mindset, and mindset is the most important factor aiding in the improvement of abilities. Okay, so I understand that growth mindset is required, but what are the actionable steps? How do I know that first of all, how to develop a growth mindset, and how do I know that I'm having a growth mindset? So growth mindset is basically believing that everything can be learned. So the question left with you is not can it be done, but rather how can it be done? You just have to add an how. You just have to know the process, because now you are all set in terms of mindset that yes, you can do it. Secondly, it is believing that your abilities are not fixed, they can definitely be improved. It's all in your hand. So these are the key features about the growth mindset. Now there is an important ingredient which can accelerate the growth in the mindset, and that is praise. Now let's take the example of Raju. Raju has already the growth mindset. Now if someone praises him, the enthusiasm will add up and he will definitely set higher learning goals. So praise can help a lot in developing a growth, increasing the growth in the mindset. Now our Raju is all set in terms of mindset. Now what after that? So now comes the tough part, the part demanding perseverance. Yes, the deliberate practice. And as the name suggests, it is a practice, the untiring one, having effort as an important ingredient. It is basically a repeated striving to reach beyond the current level of performance. Now what are the actionable steps for me? What I have to do? What is the effort that I have to put into the learnings? So the first one is active retrieval. And the basic idea behind this is you have to pour your brains out, whatever you have learned, without looking into the text or without looking into the notebook, book, whatever you have. Since it's effortful, there will be more synapses formed in the brain, there will be formation of more neural connections, and because of this will get rooted better into your brain. and the next time when you retrieve the same information, it will be a lot more easier to retrieve it. The next thing to try is spaced repetition. So you have to revise giving spaces in between. So for example, you learned a topic today, so revise it in the evening, then revise it the next day, then revise it after a gap of 2 days, then progressively increase the gaps in between. Now what is the significance of this gap? It will ensure that you forget some stuff, and now when reading the next time after a space, you will have to put efforts to retrieve particular thing. Now this effort will ensure strong connections inside the brain, strong neural connections, which is again under effortful learning. Now if you will observe, you will find that these are very irritating. These effortful learning methods are very irritating, and it seems very time consuming, and it actually is very time consuming, but that is what we call effort. Now if you are provided with large amount of data, learning each and everything is not possible, and at the same time we also know that there is always a way to do the things efficiently, and that brings us here to the third method called as memory cues, and these consist of memory devices. All of you might be familiar of this thing, that picking up the first letter of the list of names we have to remember and framing a meaningful word out of them. Another method is assigning a familiar place of yours to any particular thing that you want to learn. Now that the retrieval of image or that place is very easier for us, we'll be able to retrieve the name assigned to that very easily. Now this method is particularly for anatomy, which is full of relations, diagram, contents, etc. It becomes way too difficult to remember that large amount of data, but we know that diagrams are relatively easier to learn. Now what we can do is we can assign all the theory part to the diagram wherever possible, so when the next time we recall the diagrams, we recall the theory too along with it. So this is all for this video. I hope that I was able to deliver the value that I thought of. So before we come to a halt, let's discuss the takeaways. So the first one is believe that improvement is possible. Second, incorporate active retrieval in your studies. Third, make learning better and efficient by the use of memory cues or memory devices. Dhanyawad.